Do you remember the first time you saw a miniature from Warhammer 40k? I know I certainly do. I went round to a friend's house and he was really, really excited to show me his Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings. And from then, I was pretty hooked. The first time going into a Games Workshop, and wow, was that something special. You had the models that were made up on display, painted so beautifully and intricately. You have the boards made up. I'd never seen anything like this. It had all been pour hammer on the table. Here's, bit of Tupperware for a building. Shoe boxes for walls to make Ministera, all those sort of things. And finally, my eyes had been open, and we went to the store, and there is where I first properly encountered Warhammer 40k. There was a battle board made up. I remember it now. It was sort of like a cliffside hangar with a runway almost coming out of this hangar, and then down into a green sloping field that was pitted and pockmarked with different explosions going on. And there was these guys in yellow, in big bulking space marine suits. Turns out, Imperial Fists. And then there was these other guys that I recognised, and I was like, oh my god, that's the guys from Starship Troopers, but they're painted tan and green, and they're not monochrome black and grey. And then I saw their elite option, the Storm Troopers. Ooh, did I want a blister pack of them? But I never did. And now I'm an adult, I've got adult money, and slowly after the course of last sort of year and a half, 2 years, I have been slowly buying myself a squad of stormtroopers, and here they are. So come with me down nostalgia drive as we look at these old out of production models that I love so much. So a good thing to do before you start painting is to choose your colours and to give a good bit of thought process into what you're going to be needing at which stage. I find this helps speed up my painting process massively. As you can see here, I've already bundled all the paints into their sort of little piles of what's going to be the darkest to the lightest contrast, and having them in their little groups. And then you've got things like the Army Painter Strong Tone. I find that goes on quite thick, so you'll probably see me throughout this process watering it down, or if I don't share that, just to let you know, I have watered it down with airbrush thinner or airbrush flow improver, just to give it that little bit more of a filtering effect, so I can build it up if need be, or I can not water it down so much if I want it to go on thicker. It all depends on what I'm doing at that point. But yeah, so this is my choice of paints. I might not sort of say which ones I'm using as I'm going through, but here they are. You can come back and reference this for if need be. Also, I forgot to put a white on here because clearly I didn't think about white, but I used AK Interactive's basic white. And then once that's done, what we now need to do is get our models based and then base coated. So we're going to be using my airbrush to get that AK Interactive black on there, and also I'm just going to be using this spare sandbox from a box that I've got, which I don't really know what I'm going to use this sand for, but it's quite good for painting over and giving a nice texture to the bases of my models. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So something I really enjoy about this hobby is looking back at all these old models that are now out of production and just not being made anymore. And I love them because when I look back, they are my childhood. Somebody now who's, sort of 15 upwards, maybe a bit younger, you're coming into this hobby now, and all these sculpts and all these models that are here that we have now are just so intricately designed and sort of done on a computer, whereas I find these old sculpts have just that little bit of charm and character to them, because they've been handmade, hand sculpted by these really talented artists, which Games Workshop would like to keep hidden away from you, because, you know, why praise the people that deserve praise? I just love them so much. It really does take me back to playing those games on down at my friend's house on his dining room table, and using tissue boxes, Tupperware, shoe boxes, to create these just absolutely mad battlefields, and also sort of like trying like paper mache. I remember making a cave out of paper mache, which I painted with house paint, a solid green colour, and that was such an intricate detail to our games that we used to play. That cave always came out and was just sat on a wood table somewhere, and you know, I'd try and hide some Menagondor in there or some Minas Tirith, and my mate would always try and get his orcs and Uruk-hai in there, and for whatever reason that always sort of seemed like a good central point of battle that we'd always fight over. And then sort of as times got on, like, we bought bits of terrain, and then we got into Warhammer 40k, and I recently found the downed vertibird, Valkyrie, that's what it's called. The downed Valkyrie terrain. It must have been from the second or third edition box set. I've been looking for it online for ages, and I thought, well, I'm not paying that. And then knowing that it was around somewhere, and finally finding it, I was like, especially in time for this video, has just really put that bigger smile on my face, because the next step of this whole process of creating these armies is to then go and build a battle board. That is going to be the next thing, and I really am asking myself, and I suppose asking you as well at this point, do I fix that to the board? Do I add that as a solid bit of terrain that won't be moved onto this battle board that I'm going to be creating, or do I leave it so it can be moved? It's a bit of history, and I suppose I need to think about it from the perspective of how I view it as to how others view it, because to me it's got that sentimental value to that bit of terrain from, you know, thinking back to these battles that me and my friends used to have, and thinking forward, like how much I want that to be involved in any game going forward. So do I lock it into that one board, or do I leave it movable? I mean, yeah, things like that I have to think on. Put a comment down below, let me know what you would do if you found a piece of terrain from your childhood that you go, oh, this was in every battle we had. Would you lock it down to a battle board or leave it free floating? I'll be interested to find out, because, you know, trying to process that in my own head. And I have you guys to ask. So that's definitely part of this. And yeah, going back to these old models, like I found this eBay seller. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll try and put a thing around somewhere around here so that you can see what to look for. But this seller they've been fantastic. Within 2 to 3 days, the models have turned up, and I actually ordered another model from them whilst I realised I was missing one of the stormtroopers that I was just like, it's like £16 plus post and pack, and it's like £20 for a rifle. Yeah, buy it. Just get it. You know, these sergeants are about 30 quid, 40 quid even, with post and pack, and you know, the heavy weapons guys are about 27 to 30 pound again with post and pack, and then each rifleman's about 20 quid post. This is a very expensive team. I wish I'd bought the blister packs back when I was a kid, as I said in the intro, for like $6.99, probably even cheaper than that. Like, even with inflation, damn, these boys are pricey. But to me, they're so worth it. That I really wanted them at the time. I just couldn't afford them, and my mum and dad, and my auntie and uncle, and my sister, you know, they weren't also. I had enough at the time. They weren't prepared to put their hands in their pocket for something so expensive that was only get 3 models for. I mean, you get things for birthdays and Christmas, but you know, sometimes you put a list together, you don't always get what you're after, and that is perfectly fine. Like, if you desperately want something, just wait. Eventually you will have it. I mean, look at me, I've waited 20 years to have this Stormtroopers section, this little army which I'm going to run as Kazakin or maybe even Scions, but I think I'm going to run them as Kazakin when I battle my mate with them. So we'll have to see what happens. It depends on the mission. We're not going to be playing exactly to Games Workshop rules. Obviously, house rules will be applied when we get into this battle. But for now, I'm just really enjoying the fact that I've got these guys painted. I've got them in my army finally, and we're about ready to rock and roll. Damn, I'm excited about that. So, as I said, next step, building that battle board to play these armies on. It's exciting stuff. I suppose I'll see you in that video. I'll see you in the next ones, guys. Here's the glamour shots.